Showreel.
Daniel Johnson is a film director and screenwriter from London. Dan is passionate about writing-led independent filmmaking.
Through his company, Daniel Johnson Films, he works with corporate clients, produces his own work, and also provides actors with bespoke showreels, which is the topic of today's episode of The Essentials. Hey Dan, thank you so much for giving us your time this evening and imparting all your knowledge for us today.
I'll do the best I can.
Fantastic. We'll be fine. It is our first time recording, so we'll see what happens. You'll be the one that knows what you're doing. We probably won't. So what I thought was today in The Essentials, we're going to be talking to Dan about showreels and everything that he knows from A to Z about showreels. But we thought what would be good to start is to just ask you if you could tell us a little bit about your journey in the industry, from where you started to being where you are today.
Yeah, where I started, someone asked me a similar question the other day, and I was trying to think of the real answer to that. And I think around the age of 16, 17, I just started making short films. I just woke up one morning and thought, I'm a filmmaker, I'm going to start making stuff. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was borrowing camcorders and all sorts of things and just putting stories together. And to be honest with you, it's been a continuation of that ever since. Do you know what I mean? Just steadily bigger films and better actors and just sort of steadily going from there.
Yeah. Was it really just an immediate thing? Did you do anything like acting wise, or just did you literally wake up one day and go, I like films, I want to do it, let's go?
I think it was that. I was never an actor. I mean, I did drama at GCSEs and I was fine. I was okay, but I was never had the ambition of acting. And then, I wish I could time travel back to see how it really all come together, because it's hard on reflection to know the real answer. But it felt like I just suddenly was like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker now. And I had the sort of arrogance then, which I don't have as much now, but just thinking like, I know what I'm doing. I can make films. And I was like 17 or something, you know, but yeah, that's how it started.
Brilliant.
Nice. Did you have any sort of role models to do with film, like members of the family that were already involved in the industry?
No, not at all. No one in my family was anywhere near the industry. My dad worked for NatWest in their head office, and my mum worked for a children's charity, for Bernardo's Children's Charity. So I didn't get it from the parents. I don't know where I got it from, but it was just something that I always, even younger than the age I mentioned, I was, I guess, getting quite obsessive about movies from the age, I don't know, 13, 14 or something, like just sitting at home after school or whatever, just constantly watching films. So it just became the thing I was connected to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had an uncle that was, you know, head of a film studio or something. But
Don't we all?
yeah.
Great. So what is a showreel? If you could give us a sort of dictionary definition, as it were, what is a showreel?
A showreel is a collection. Well, from an actor's point of view, it's a collection of acting material. It's I guess scenes of you doing your thing and showing what you can do.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And do you think a showreel is essential for actors these days?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially obviously if you want to do screen work, you know, you want someone to hire you to do that. You need to be able to show you can do it. So I think 9 times out of 10, a casting director, you know, if they're going to be putting you in a project and entrusting that you can do the job, they want to see evidence of that. So obviously, if you have a showreel to show what you can do, it's going to help you.
Yeah,
definitely.
How long do you think a showreel should be? Because, you know, we hear stories that casting directors listen to, or watch rather, 10, 15 seconds of a showreel. So I'd be interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a good question, and I feel like I've given so many different answers over the years. For sure, like everyone sort of says, shorter is better, because the more material you have and the more time you spend, the more chance you've got of someone finding something that they don't like. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, sure, if a showreel's 2 minutes and you've got a few different bits of material showing you at your best, that's great. That's enough. I used to be very one of these people who's very much like 2 minutes max or 2 minute 20. But now, like, I see some shows that are a bit longer, and I feel like most, agents, casting directors, film producers, whoever it might be, we all watch showreels in the same way, which is you press play, you think, oh, that's interesting. Then you just click in a random spot, a minute in, and you're like, oh, look, they can do comedy. And then you click again, you're like, oh, yeah, no. And whether it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 30 seconds, whatever it is, I feel like the people watch it in the same way. They kind of click through wanting to gain information every second of it they're watching.
Yeah, because sometimes when I watch show reels from a sort of actor's perspective, I'm sort of watching it, trying to go, right, where's the structure in the scene, and trying to understand the narrative, which is obviously not the perspective that casting directors and directors, they're just watching, can you do it? So the way you answer that question makes it seem like you want to leave them wanting more, as the age-old expression says.
Yeah, but I will say, actually, I do think narrative and storytelling is important in a reel, in the sense that I feel like we've all seen a bad showreel scene. God, I probably made some of them myself, but the bad scene where there's two characters, they're arguing, but it's just a load of noise and nothing's really happening of any importance, or the two kids sitting around getting stoned, chatting about who they fancy or something, and they're not. The storyline isn't real and it doesn't grip you, so you lose interest. So I do think it's not just a case of acting ability. I do think, the better the scripts are, whether they're stuff you've created from scratch or whether they are, TV shows you've been in, the better the material is, the more it supports you as an actor.
Yeah, that quite nicely segues into sort of asking you, in terms of content, what should make up an actor's showreel?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, obviously, when I started out, like when I literally very first started out, I remember I was casting a short film when I was about 18, and this guy gave me a VHS tape of his showreel. And I was just so amazed that somebody had a showreel that I just cast him on the spot. I'm like, this guy's got a showreel, it's on a videotape, he must be
It's
good.
legit.
Exactly. But back then, a showreel was all about, what have you done? What shows have you been in? Now it's different. There's so many actors that it's more like, what can you do, rather than what have you done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I think that now the content, I mean, you've got to, I don't want to overcomplicate it. You want to keep it simple. You want to see some nice short scenes of you acting and showing how you handle conflict as an actor, how you handle, being a character in a storyline. And you want to show a few examples of that show what you can do.
Yeah, and that feeds nicely into the next question. There's a debate about whether you should contain scenes that have really high stakes and big emotion to, sort of prove that you can do that. But then other people say that it's good to prove that you can act naturalistically, and they say that industry professionals just want to see you being you, really being natural on camera.
Sure. First of all, I'd say there's two different things there in what you've said. One is about being high stakes, and the other one is like, what did you say? High emotion, big emotion.
Yeah,
Now, I think they're two different things, because for me, 99% of good showreel scenes or good scenes in TV or film have high stakes. And I think you need high stakes for drama. You need, so, a low stakes scene, if nothing's at play for the characters, then the scene's not going to be that interesting. So I think, high stakes handled in a subtle way, that's the most powerful scene. So for example, it's quite a generic type of scene, but if we were to talk about a breakup scene, one person wants to leave, the other person wants them to stay together. Now, if they have the strong determination, one is like, we definitely must stay together because we are meant for each other. And the other character is like, I have to leave because you're ruining my life. They are high stakes. Now, there's the big emotion version of that, and there's a more subtle, nuanced version of that. But for me, the best scenes, especially on a show reel, is we want to see high stakes, but handled like a real human being.
Yeah, I get that because we've had that. I've been to workshops before where casting directors have said, "Yeah, we want the scenes to be interesting," but the second they're watching through showreels to try and see who they're gonna send breakdowns out to, and they see a showreel which is just it opens up and then someone's just bawling their eyes out on camera, and it's just
Yeah.
whoa, too much. So, like we've spoken a bit about the content. Does
Mm.
like the order of the scenes matter? Because there's lots of conversations where what scene should you put first, and if they're casting comedy, but my drama scene's first, are they even going to bother seeing if I can do comedy? Will they click later? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely important because, like, it's all important. But the thing for me is, obviously, when you open the reel, you want to see a very good actor doing their thing and doing it in the best possible way. And sometimes, actors make the mistake of, let's say, if you had two lines in the Ricky Gervais show Afterlife, you got two lines in that show. So you think, oh my God, I'm with Ricky Gervais. That has to begin my reel.
Yeah.
But then that's often a mistake because the two lines are you just serving Ricky Gervais in a shop, handing him some biscuits. It doesn't really show you doing anything apart from being in a big show. So that maybe shouldn't come first, even though you think it should. Likewise, at the end of a reel, a lot of actors make the mistake of having great material at the beginning and then thinking, "Oh, I want to show I can do this, 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 this," and then before you know it, you're at the end of the reel and it's a bad scene, and it shouldn't be there at all. So the order matters, but first of all, first and foremost, I would say you want all the material. You want the first scene and the third scene to be almost equal in quality. You want really good
Yeah.
scenes.
Like
Um,
bookend it almost.
yeah, because when you end a reel, when you finish, someone's name or spotlight comes up at the end or headshot, whatever it is, you want to end thinking, "Whoa, she was good." Whereas so often people think, "Okay, I've got that great showreel scene I did with the showreel company, and I've got this cool TV thing." And then at the end, just to show that I can do an Irish accent, I'm going to put that bad short film at the end. And obviously, then you end thinking, "What the hell was that scene about? Why is it
Yeah.
there?" And then it ruins what came before. It's like if you have a great first date, but the third date is terrible, you're not going to think, "Oh, you know what? The first date was really good, so I'm going to keep seeing them." You're going to think the
Mm.
third one, "Oh, they were nuts." Do you know what I mean? So that's a bad example, but yeah, you want it all to be good, and finding the right order is part of the magic of doing it. And sometimes, like when I'm working with a client, you think you've got the right order, and then 2 weeks later they'll come back to me and say, "You know what, my agent really likes the third scene," and I've been thinking, and then you jig it around because it's not an exact science. Well, it is an exact science, but you've got to just figure it out as you go sometimes.
Yeah, you're like searching in the dark almost, aren't you,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, just playing around with it. You
Mm.
just mentioned the Irish accent in a scene. What do you think about accents in showreels? Do you think you should just stick to your own?
Oh, that is a good question. I'll try not to leave too much silent dead air here while I think about that. Okay, here's the thing. Let me think. Accents. First of all, if you're like a new actor, new to the industry, and it's your first show reel, and you're getting 3 scenes or 4 scenes or 2 scenes, whatever it is, it's hard enough to be really good and natural on camera. It's hard enough to have good scripts to show. Especially if you're a little bit anxious, you're a little bit nervous. Like, it's hard enough to bring your A game right away. If
Yeah,
you're going to do that and say, "Well, I'm going to do my American accent and I'm going to do my Irish accent," then you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. And the chances of, the screen doesn't lie. Like, if you commit your Irish accent to screen forever or for the next couple of years, that's really tough to nail. And I've been on shoots where an actor's like, "I'm going to do my Irish accent. It's brilliant. I know I get cast in it. My agent loves my Irish accent." And then on the day, they're nervous about their accent. They're not quite sure they're nailing it. I'm not quite sure they're nailing it because it's Irish. I'm not a accents guy. Do you know what I mean? So it's
Mm.
so many things come into play. I would say 9 times out of 10, go with your natural accent. Find the different sides of the characters in terms of your performance rather than accents. I would say that's the best way to go 9 times out of 10. But look, if you have an American passport and an English, you can work in America or England and you do both equally, then sure, maybe you need American accent and you need English accent. Like, there's no hard and fast rule, but I would, especially when I'm working with someone on, like, let's say from scratch scenes, I tend to steer them towards doing their own accents if I can.
Yeah, I agree. Because when I don't feel confident with an accent, it just really negates from you listening to the other person and being present, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And the other, yeah, exactly on that. For example, sometimes an actor will learn a script in the accent they want to do. Let's say it's American, and then if if something's not working on the day with the script, and I say we need to change that line, and you need to say this, they might not, like, my girlfriend's American, and she, like, actually, it's funny that she's not in the industry at all, but she can watch a scene back and be like, an American would never say that. An American would never use that phrase. And those are things that we don't always know as actors or as even directors. Do you know what I mean? So
Mm.
sometimes it's a risk if I've got a line of dialogue. If I suddenly say, okay, this character, instead of saying this, they say, let's take the rubbish out. And then American accent saying take the rubbish out, and then my girlfriend reminds me, no, we say trash. We don't say rubbish. And
Yeah,
then before you know it, the scene's not real.
it's that illegitimacy, isn't it? That you just don't
Yeah.
need. You don't need to give them an excuse, as you say,
Mm,
to not call you in. You might as well get your good stuff in there, and hopefully that works. And
absolutely.
what do you suggest? So actors who go to drama school, so some provide show reels, others don't provide show reels when they leave. What do you suggest the actors whose drama schools don't provide them with a show reel do, or actors who aren't training and they're just trying to find their way in the industry and they don't have access
Mm.
to an institutionally provided show reel?
Yeah, I mean, I still think the norm is that most drama schools don't provide showroom material. And those that do, sometimes, like, they're clearly filmed on a stage. Do you know what I mean? Or they're filmed
Mm,
with the black curtains behind them or something. So even if your drama school is providing them, they're not always the best of material. But your question was, what if you don't get that material? Look, I mean, obviously, if you're a professional actor or you're wanting opportunities, you need to provide that for yourself. I think that not everyone has the budget to go out to a showreel company and get material in that way. So you need to be creative. I do think in the times of COVID, and I cough on cue there. Sorry. In the times of COVID, I feel like the sort of self tape thing has. I feel like there are casting directors who, 8 months ago, wouldn't have looked at a self tape as a showreel, and now there's maybe a window. I guess my point is, if you're an actor and you want to get screen work, then you need to create material any which way you can. And if right now all you've got is your phone and your living room, then get recording stuff.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just good for actors and creatives' sort of mental health, really, is to try and stay in that industry headspace, as it were, if you can. And that's another way, as well as watching films, reading plays, all those things that you get told to be a good actor and do. It's just another tick in those boxes.
Yeah, I mean, I did this thing this was just before COVID. This was probably like January, February time. I saw a big debate was happening on Twitter. People were talking about, how expensive showreels are, how expensive all these different things are for actors. And I decided to do a workshop where I was like, we're going to create some scenes for free using just phones. And I did a workshop with some actors and sort of showed them how to do it. And my plan was for it to not just be self tapes, but to use their phones in a cinematic way. So, for example, let's say, I'm just going to come up with like a bad idea now, but just say like the world is ending and you need to leave a message to your parents who you're never going to see again. How would you film that? Or you are a journalist and you've just found out, like an Ed Snowden kind of thing. You've got this story that you know that if you ever share it, you'll get tracked down by the government or something. Or it could be, I did another scene which was someone leaving a video note to a dead parent who they really wanted to just tell them how their lives been going. Record these things, but rather than setting it up against a white wall, got actors to just film it in their environment as they really would if they were really in these situations. And then in the edit, well, they're all like done in one take, but I would add little things like a record button in the corner or a camcorder effect or like a phone, all these different phone effects to just give it this sense of legitimacy. Like, here is a character in a predicament filming something by themselves. And those scenes weren't by any means perfect, but especially in a time of COVID, they show creativity, they show character types, casting types. And a bunch of actors that I did the workshop with ended up with material, And also then some people at Arts Ed saw that and asked me to do some showreels during lockdown with their students. So I ended up doing like 27 scenes filmed on phones with actors who were in lockdown, and they were great.
Fantastic.
Did that make sense? I feel like I rambled a lot there, but
No, it's
you know what I
definitely,
mean?
it definitely did. It's about that idea of, as you said, if no one's making the work for you, who else is going to do it? You've got to crack down and find ways to do it. And I think COVID, one of the many things is it's forced creatives to be innovative, to think outside the box. And it's provided a lot of actors or creators with the opportunity that might not have been getting seen at the time to sort of force their way through the door because they'll stand out.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think a lot of us like this idea of being picked because we think we're talented. But most of the time, especially now, I feel like there's so many people in this industry. There are so many filmmakers, there are so many actors, there's so much competition that I just think you're always in a more powerful position if you create things by yourself. And it was me when I was a kid with a camcorder, and now it's me. I'm helping some actors do some of their mobile phones, but like a lot of things that are changing in our industry or in creativity in general are being done by 15-year-olds with YouTube accounts who have 5 million followers because they came up with a funny idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that we just all need to be staying creative and finding new ways to express ourselves, and not just rely on the hope that some big casting director is just going to pluck us out of thin air and choose us.
Yeah, I think when we leave drama school, we all have that hope, and we're waiting, and then 3 years goes by, and you're still waiting. So it's definitely a great thing to be doing.
Because you don't encounter the possibility of them not emailing you or not bringing you in for a casting when you're training. It's all about being prepared for when they do, and then when you leave, and if you're not one of the ones that has either got that lucky break or has forced their way through the door, because I think it's unfair to suggest that the actors that do well when they just leave drama school, oh, they got lucky. That's not always the case. But in terms of like those big casting directors, if you've not been getting work, is a showreel, getting a new showreel, like a good reason to email a casting director from your side of things?
I mean, I feel like you guys might be more qualified to answer that than me as actors. But let me think. I think that, no, I guess yes. I mean, I know for sure a lot of people I work with, they say, I'm going to get my reel together and then I'm going to reach out to casting directors. I guess it can't hurt, right? I mean, casting directors are a mystery even to me. I think that when you interview them, you'll figure out a lot more. But yeah, it helps. It helps to have something to show them, and a new show. Yeah, as you can see, I'm stammering over the answer. I think the answer is yes, but I feel like that particular question, you guys might have a better opinion than I do.
Well, I mean, if I was getting all the big auditions for The Crown, I'd be like, yeah, that definitely worked. So
Yeah.
We'll get back to you when that works.
Dan, with actors being told to constantly change things up and get new headshots and attend casting workshops, pay for spotlight, etc., and you're doing this while waiting tables and trying to pay the rent. Why do you think actors should prioritize spending their money on a showreel?
Oh, I mean, it's another good question, and I think that all of us creatives have to you have to make decisions every day about what is the right expense. What's not. Like for me right now, it's like, do I need a new camera? Do I need a better microphone? Do I need to upgrade my lights? Do I need a better hard drive so I can edit faster? Like these are decisions that I am always making as a filmmaker. Sometimes I'm saying, no, I won't spend on that. I'll prioritize this. And I think it's the same for actors. And I think that undoubtedly, like for me, when I'm creating showreels, a good percentage of the actors will come back to me, a few weeks, couple of months down the line, and say, Dan, this helped me get an agent. This helped me get my first role in TV, or this helped me get this play that I really wanted. And for me, a showreel, they're not usually that cheap, but they're cheap enough that they're an investment that will help build those relationships that you want to build. Like it's a long form thing to get to know the right casting directors, to get a good agent, to be involved with the creative people you want to work with. A showreel is one of those tools, like a headshot, like the skill set that you're building, that you need to. It's hard, man. Like when you're, especially, it's COVID-19. People are, it's a struggle. It's hard. Like, where do you put your money? There's a definite upside to having a show reel in terms of visibility, in terms of showing you can actually do the craft that you want to be hired for. Um, but right now, especially in the time period we're in right now, you have to decide for yourself, what your priorities are. If you want to be doing stage, maybe you focus on something else. If you really want to be a screen actor and you want opportunities, then you probably need a show reel to show that you can do that thing.
Yeah, it's one
Yeah.
of the things about sort of, a lot of this industry is about taking the right chance at the right time. And I guess it's weighing up, well, if, say, a showreel cost about 350 quid, and you just ask yourself, well, if this showreel gets me that agent I need, or that big film part I need as my big break, is that worth 350 quid? Probably yes.
Absolutely, exactly. And there's always like these, I did a show reel years ago for an actress whose name was Bridget Lowry. My name still is that. And I remember we did this dating scene, this quirky, funny character dating scene. And then literally we finished that reel. And then like a week or two later, she's like, oh, I've been cast in this commercial and it's for a dating thing. And and you could literally see the journey from the scene we had done to the thing she'd been cast as. And I don't know what she got paid, but it was for, I think it was for like Curry's or PC World or something, but it was to do with like dating. And you could just see the link and you could see how it helped her get that job. And that makes it worth it, right? Like if you get paid a few grand for a commercial, or you get, I've had clients who they get a few lines in Doctors or Casualty or whatever, like it pays for itself when it works.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Once you get your return on investment, it's definitely worthwhile.
Mm.
Dan, do you think student films are a good alternative to showreel material?
In theory, yes. In theory, yes. However, I would say that I probably wouldn't be known as a showreel guy if student films were better. I think that
Yeah.
the problem with student films is it's students, and often you've got a crew of 10 people. They all want to be directors, but one of them's being forced to be the sound guy. Another one is trying to interfere with the director and tell him what to do. And it's a mess and they don't know how to work a light properly. And there's all these different things happening. And often maybe there's a technical problem, or maybe the script's bad, so the actor doesn't quite get to do something that they want on their show. It's such a lottery that by all means you should, if you can get cast in them, like definitely do it. But I think do student films for the experience of doing them, the experience of being on set, and the hope of good material. But they don't always lead to good material. And now even people need a showreel sometimes because students want to see a showreel before they cast. So it's like a real catch 22.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And So, would you recommend? So, the actors, as they say, even students want to for their films want to see actors with screen experience before they even get them in for those type of films.
Hmm.
So, would you recommend an actor who's had no or barely any experience on camera
Hmm.
use the process of working with a showreel company to sort of learn that skill on the job, or are there ways that they can sort of practice at home? What would you recommend in regards to that?
Yeah, I don't think you should necessarily, like, every now and again I'll get an email from someone who has clearly just watched something really cool on Netflix and thought to themselves, I can be an actor.
I can do that.
Yeah, like I could do what that Hanks guy does. I'm going to do it. And it's clearly not in their best interest to get a show. There's actually a phrase that I use quite a lot when I talk to actors, and I'll say, whatever your acting ability is right now, if you work with me, I will bring out the best of what you are capable of. So if you've never acted before and you come to me and we did a show reel, it would, it'd be fine, but you're probably not that good yet. Do you know what I mean? Because you're brand new and you just decided to do it. So you probably are better off studying the craft more, doing some short courses. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're like inexperienced and you work with me, then yeah, I can help and you can learn through that experience. But I think there are cheaper ways to learn, you know?
As you suggested, the way you asked those actors, I know you asked for people that were already actors or people that might have had some experience to do the stuff
Mm.
on their phones. But as you said, the way to be creative right now, maybe do a bit of that. And then when you're ready to invest your money, know that it's not going to be yourself that lets you down once you do that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's crucial. I mean, look, there's a lot of showreel companies out there, and of course, people will take your money, but I think that for an actor it's wise to, here's the tough thing, I think, because it's such a competitive industry. Often actors, like sometimes when I'm working with a client, they appear out of nowhere, they appear in an email and they're like, hi Dan, I really need a showreel, I need it in 2 weeks, can you get me a showreel, I need a showreel. And they're thinking so fast that they want to just get it done. But I think that, take your time, think about what you really need. And yeah, if you're starting out, as tempting as it is to get a showreel and look like a movie star, like, it's a craft. Like, I genuinely believe, and I see it in people that, like, actors that I've known for many years, they get better. Like I do as a filmmaker, you get better year after year. Like if I'd said to you guys 5 years ago, let's do a short film. And then next week I said, let's go do a short film. I'm pretty certain that the film this now would be much better than 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, some of the stuff I did early years at drama school, I
Exactly.
hope will never ever see the light of day. I got compared to someone that hated having their photo taken so much it wouldn't stop twitching. So yeah,
Exactly.
I hope we're beyond that stage now.
Don't worry, Matt. I've got all the recordings ready.
Oh, brilliant! There you go.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. I think that, yeah, a showreel solves a specific problem in that it shows casting directors what you can do, or an agent if you need an agent, for example. But yeah, if you rush it too soon, you're only going to end up needing to spend that money again in 2 years' time when you learn what to do.
Yeah, yeah. What's the sort of process you go through when you're writing someone their showreel scenes? Is it sort of different to how you write personal screenplays? Because I can imagine you really need to sort of get to know the person before you're able to write content for them.
Yeah, it definitely is different. I think when I'm just writing a script, a film script, like for myself or for my own projects, I'm purely just letting my creativity go wherever it chooses to go. But with a showreel, look, when I'm writing showreel scenes, I'm very aware that the target audience for that thing I'm creating is like 5 people. They're all casting directors. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm making something very specifically that has to help that actor get work or get seen or get an agent. So it's very different. And that's why when I started doing this, I sort of, as I guess, it was kind of a unique selling point kind of thing, but it was also the way my creativity worked. Is I've always needed to have that personal connection to what I do. So my thing with showreels has always been, we'll meet, I'll get to know you, I'll ask you all sorts of questions. Some of them are like, about how the actor perceives their casting type and what sort of roles suit them. And other questions are more generic, like tell me something about you that's got nothing to do with acting. And I'm just getting to know them, getting a sense of who they are. And then based on what suits them, I start to write scenes that suit them. And so, for example, if someone comes to me, an actor, and they're 40 years old and they're very sort of strong personality, and I can just see, oh, if that person was a lawyer or a solicitor, they would, like, you can start to see the casting types. Or, and sometimes I might have a client who I can see they're really young and they're shy and they're awkward. And sure, that might mean I write them an awkward little scene, but it might also mean that I think I'm going to write a scene where they surprise everyone and like step into their power and show how they can command the attention of a boss or a family member, etc. And then it just shapes into scenes that have a slice of them and also a slice of the types of roles they're going to be up for. And somehow the magical comes together. I always do a bad job of explaining it because it's kind of a mysterious process that I've been doing for many years that I can't fully put into words.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, well, that sounds fantastic that you meet up with the actors and get to know them. I really
Yeah,
like
for
that.
me, that's the crucial thing because if I'm not meeting them, I'm not getting to know them, and if it's not a personal interaction, um, then I'm just a guy taking money to just shoot something random. Do you know what I mean? So for me,
Mm.
that personalization is, and that's why my name, like, I, for me, like when I started doing it, I didn't have a sort of showreel company name. It literally is like Daniel Johnson does showreels, and I write the scenes, I direct them, I edit them, I make the cups of tea and coffee. Like I'm very much a one man band. So if your showreel sucks, you come talk to me.
Yeah. Do you have any like big screen acting do's and don'ts for actors? Like as you said, some people come to you and it's really early on with their work in that craft, and then maybe
Mm.
other people have a bit more experience. But are there sort of the sort of 10 commandments of screen acting? Do you have things that you're always like, please do this, please don't do that?
Yeah, probably. Let me think. The main thing I think is, especially, there's a weird dynamic. If you're paying someone for a showreel scene, you're paying a bunch of money and you want it to be really good. So sometimes actors will be like, okay, I'm shooting my showreel today. So I need to show everything I can do. I need to show how good I am, blah, 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 blah. But actually, for a natural showreel, you need to drop all of that and just be a human being. So if we're doing a scene and it's the showreel scene is about two friends starting a podcast and they get into an argument about it. Once we're rehearsing it and we're doing that scene, all that matters is, are you the characters who have a podcast who are arguing with each other? You just need to get into the realness of it. And if the actor is thinking, oh, but I paid hundreds of pounds, I need to show I can do anger and do an Irish accent. I need to show that I'm amazing. And I saw this thing in a movie last night in close up where he pulled this weird face. If you're doing that, it's going to be terrible, So for
Yeah,
me, it's about drawing everything back. And luckily, I'm at the point now doing this for a long time where I can sort of say to an actor, like, do you trust me? And luckily they tend to say yes. And I'm able to say, good. So you don't need to do those things you're doing. Just trust me. Just be the guy who's doing a podcast and it's going to look like a good scene, you know?
yeah. Is that slightly different sometimes to how you direct when you've cast actors then? Because as you say, there's the weird dynamic between, when you're directing a film that you've cast and when someone's paid you to direct them and do stuff like that. So where some directors might be quite harsh and be like, oh, what are you doing? Or you should be doing this out of the rest. Do you feel sometimes that you have to sort of hold back a bit sometimes if you're going to critique on set or however you do direct?
I think my directing style generally is quite, I think one skill that I have is I can normally understand what's happening with an actor, like in themselves. So if an actor is anxious or frightened or over arrogant or whatever it might be, I tend to be able to identify it and then help support them through it. So I think that what am I saying? There is, I think, doing a showreel scene that you are naturally 9 times out of 10. I'm more experienced doing this than the actor is, so I'm able to sort of support them. I don't know how to describe it really, just to support them to know that what they're doing is enough and that they can be subtle with it. Whereas when I'm doing a film project, um, I'm probably a little bit more direct with the actors. Although I'm direct with showreel clients, so I don't know. Maybe they're both the same. I'm not sure.
Well, it's interesting because I know you've watched so many showreels in your time, and
Mm,
from I've watched far less, but from the ones that I do watch, especially when it's not made up of credits that they've got through actual work, that nearly every
mm,
single scene is set in like a home or
mm.
like an office or like on a park bench. Like, do you
Yeah.
think that even comes into sort of casting directors' minds, or is it something that they go, "Oh God, it's another scene set in a park bench, or it's another scene of two people in an office getting angry. Do you know what I mean?"
I know exactly what you mean. First of all, I feel like I've seen the exact same park bench scenes that you've seen. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um, but here's the thing: like when I started doing showreels, I think I was traveling all around London, doing all these different locations. And the problem is, like, say if I'm filming a showreel scene for you two guys tonight, if we go and we're like, we're going to film at a castle and we're going to do this and it's going to be a great location. Now, if you film there with permission, it probably costs you a lot of money. If you film there without permission, you're going to have people walking past, dogs barking, planes coming over, it's peeing down with rain. There's a lot of different things that what I started to learn was all I care about is the what is the actor doing? Are they carrying the emotional like truth of this journey? Is it going to get them work? So for me, I it's good to be ambitious and like sometimes I'll see someone's done a showreel scene and I'm like, wow, what a location! I need to do more of that. But sometimes I think that all that we're doing is showing a casting director what you can do. So if a scene's good, they're not even going to notice the location you're in. Once you're in a close up and the background is blurry, does it make that important of a difference for your showreel if you're in a living room or if you're in Buckingham Palace? So for me, are you still there?
yeah, we're still
Right.
here.
Yeah, because I heard a weird noise. I didn't think you was bored of me or anything, but yeah, like, um, yeah. So it's a good question, and I like when I work with actors, I often say like, if your uncle owns a giant office rooftop, let's film there. Or if I can like get access to this cool car park in my building, we'll film there. Great. But really, for me, that's not the crucial element of what makes a show real good or what makes a casting director cast you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But one
How
more thing I will say is I I often think the park bench, which you mentioned, is overused. And it's like you often see the filmmaker always coming up with a reason why they've met there. So there's
Yeah,
always this bad line of dialogue that's like,
of exposition. Yeah.
you're in this place again. It's like, yeah, I always wait here for my like it's just some nonsense thing.
And it's a
So
bit similar to how they talk about, with musical theatre auditions or whatever. It's like, oh, someone's brought I Dreamed a Dream in again, or drama school auditions. Oh, we've seen The Fifth to Be or Not to Be today. Get out.
it's the
exactly,
cliche, yeah.
absolutely.
How would you want actors to get in touch with you to be considered for your own personal films that you shoot?
Drop me an email, I guess. Just send me a showreel, of course. Just for me, and maybe it's my own ego, but it's always nice when someone's actually watched your stuff
Yeah,
and says like, "Really liked your film. I really like that one you did about so and so. I really respond to your type of filmmaking. I'd love to work with you if there's a chance, or get a coffee with you." Like that stuff resonates. Yeah, I mean, the worst is when you get an email and someone's like, "Hi, Fred." And I'm like, that's not my name. But yeah, just drop me an email or tweet me or whatever and
Mm.
get in touch. There's no specific. raw.
I think sometimes actors with emails like that as well is a lot of the time when you have done that legitimate sort of graft before you email someone, I sometimes worry when I email someone that they're going to think it sounds illegitimate. They're going to think that I'm trying to suck up to them,
Yeah,
and it's a weird thing where obviously someone, it's when you text someone and you're worried that they're going to take things one way, and it's like, no, I meant this. It feels a bit like that.
yeah. Do you know, I learned something myself years ago. I used to interview like filmmakers and producers and actors for a blog. And what I found was when I sent a really long email about I love this film and that film and I love when you did that and I'd really love the opportunity to interview you, they didn't respond. But if I just wrote 2 sentences and I was like, love that thing you did, I'd love to interview you on Thursday the 11th at 6 p.m. Can you do it? They would come back with a yes or no because it was short, it was to the point. I was telling them what I wanted. But I think sometimes when people are too, like if you email a casting director, they probably don't want your life story. They just want you to get down to it, you know?
It's business, yeah. And
Exactly.
you sort of mentioned a bit earlier about your process when you're making shows, about talking to someone beforehand. Could
Hmm.
you sort of give us a summary of what is the process from someone when they contact you with an initial inquiry about getting a show reel done through
Hmm.
to receiving that finished reel?
Yeah, I'll tell you the whole process in as succinct a way as I can. The beginning process is like we talked about a meeting, usually in person during COVID. Obviously, a bit more Zoom a lot of the time. But the process is we get to know each other and really we figure out if we want to work together. For me, I don't work with everyone that I talk to purely because for me, the chemistry creatively is crucial for both of us. And I think, if you realize you have a different of an opinion of what makes a good showreel scene or what would work, there's plenty of different people out there who'll do a similar thing. So for me, it's about getting to know each other, seeing if we sort of see the world the same way, and we want to make a reel together. Once that's a yes, there's the writing stage where I tend to just write scripts over a few weeks. When I'm in the zone, an actor will get 5 scripts suddenly in a week. When I'm not in the zone, it's dribs and drabs for a week or two, and then finally it clicks in and they get a bunch of scripts. Hopefully the actor likes what they read and it resonates with them. And I always say, like, they're paying a bunch of money and this is going to represent them for a year or two, so they have to love it. If they don't, I write a few other bits, and then once we've got the scripts that we love, we set a filming date. I tend to film these things in one day, but there's plenty of time to work on each scene. And yeah, we just shoot them over a day. We have a good fun shoot it a heap of times, move around the locations a bit, and then a couple of weeks from then, they get their edit.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I feel like I may have skipped some steps, but that's pretty much the gist.
That's
But
that's that's the basic recipe in the book, as it were.
yeah,
Well, what kind of work do you want to be doing in the future with your film company?
um, that's an interesting question for me because a couple of weeks back, someone who I was really close to, who I looked at as like a mentor, passed away, and he had taken me to Rwanda and to Zimbabwe to do some documentary film work. And losing him, it really made me realize, and I've always known this, but it made me realize now that I think so often we can all spend years just hiding behind excuses for not doing projects and not being sure of what we want to do. And I've really reconnected since losing him to this idea of I just want to do things that I'm passionate about. Do you know what I mean? And I really want to reconnect to that energy when you first start out and you don't really know anything, but you just make stuff because you
Yeah.
care about it. And I think in recent years I got a bit caught up in reputation, especially like, I became known as the showreel guy. And I think there was a shyness around what if I make a short film and it sucks? And then everyone thinks, oh, that showreel guy makes bad films, blah, blah, blah. And I think I just got in my head. and now I've really reconnected to. I couldn't tell you what the projects are going to be, although I can actually, because I've got a short film that I've written and a documentary that I'm going to be shooting after lockdown. But yeah, I just want to do stuff that I connect to that makes me smile.
Yeah.
No, so it's not about ambition or how much money I'll earn or where it will take me in the industry or TV credits. It's really not about that. It's just I want to do things that make me want to get up in the morning, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And you know, we just hope it's not an experience like that make us realize something. And you know, I think this
Yeah.
year, as more than any year, we've had to really get in check with that and go, you know, why are we doing these things? Why does it matter? And, you know, reconnect with that. Thank you so much for talking to us, Dan. It's been great. Brilliant.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Can I add one final thought?
Go for it. Absolutely.
Just on what you've just said about the time period we're in and the type of things we work on, I think that obviously you've got a podcast called In the Room, and it's all about getting in the room. I would turn that on its head a little bit and say that if you feel like you're not getting in the room, build your own room. Do you know what I mean? Like, find friends who are like you and create stuff in your own voice, in your own sense of humor. You know, you can make a podcast, you can make a short film with, I mean, the quality of an iPhone compared to the films there was zillions on when I was starting out. Like, the phones now are better. Like, there's so many opportunities to do our own thing. So if you are struggling to, like, as you say, like, get in the room, you know, often when I look back, the best things I've done, the best things I've created were just things that I did for fun with people that I got on with creatively. And that opportunity is to all of us.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast.
We hope you enjoyed it and learned something.
We look forward to having you back in the room very, very soon.